Have you heard the theory that Jesus never existed? It's actually pretty interesting. And in this video, we're going to examine this theory and see if it holds up or not. So, let's start with the case against Jesus. The argument goes like this. The Romans needed a peaceful religion to replace the angry Jewish movements that kept fighting against the empire. So they invented Jesus, a savior who tells you to turn the other cheek, to pay your taxes, to give Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Pretty smart strategy if you think about it. Some theorists even claim the Roman emperors who destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD made up the Gospels as propaganda. They point to strange similarities between Jesus' life and Roman military campaigns. The entire New Testament, they say, is one big Roman trick. And then there's the silence. Why don't Roman historians from that time mention Jesus? Where's the birth record, the death record, the actual proof? If Jesus really did miracles in front of thousands, brought people back to life, and caused such a problem that Rome killed him, you'd expect someone to write about it, right? But the historical record is surprisingly quiet. No contemporary accounts, no archaeological evidence of his existence, nothing written during his actual lifetime. And get this, the earliest gospel, Mark, wasn't written until around 70 AD. That's 40 years after Jesus supposedly died. The other Gospels came even later. 40 years is a long time. Long enough for legends to grow. Long enough for stories to change. Plus, the Gospels contradict each other. Different birth stories, different resurrection accounts, different timelines. If these are eyewitness testimonies, why don't they line up? It's worth asking these questions. But here's where things get really interesting. Because when you actually dig into the evidence, a very different picture appears. Let me show you something. Tacitus, Roman senator, writing around 116 AD. He mentions Christ being killed under Pontius Pilate. Now here's the key. Tacitus hated Christians, called their religion a deadly superstition. This is not a guy making up stories to help the church. He's reporting what he knows as a hostile witness. Then there's Josephus, Jewish historian, also not a Christian. Writing in the 90s AD, he mentions Jesus twice. Once in a passage that got partially changed by later Christian writers, but even the most doubtful experts agree the core reference is real. The second mention, about James, the brother of Jesus who was called Christ, is considered completely legit by scholars across the board. But wait, there's more. The Talmud, a Jewish text, mentions Jesus, and not in a positive way. They call him a deceiver, but they don't deny he existed. Think about that. If Jesus never existed, his enemies would have just said so. Instead, they attacked his character. And here's what really breaks the conspiracy theory wide open. If the Romans invented Jesus to create a peaceful religion, they did an absolutely terrible job because Christianity was illegal in the Roman Empire for almost 300 years. Christians were tortured, killed, thrown to lions. The Romans saw them as a danger, not a tool. If this was a Roman conspiracy, someone forgot to tell the Romans. And the manuscript evidence? We have copies of the New Testament that date incredibly close to when it was written. We're talking pieces from the early 2nd century. We have more ancient copies of the New Testament than any other document from the ancient world. It's not even close. Compare that to other ancient people. We accept that Socrates was real based on writings that came decades after his death. We trust stories about Alexander the Great written 400 years after Alexander died. Julius Caesar's earliest biography was written 100 years after he died. But somehow Jesus, with way better proof, gets questioned? The historical agreement is huge. We're talking over 99% of experts on ancient history, atheist, agnostic, Christian, Jewish, they all agree Jesus of Nazareth was a real person who was crucified under Pontius Pilate. Here is what the evidence shows. There was a Jewish teacher in first-century Palestine who gathered followers, challenged religious leaders, and was killed by Rome. That's history, and historians agree about these facts. But concerning Jesus' resurrection and miracles, that requires faith, and as such, the non-Christian historians would debate this as facts. Now, here's what I find fascinating. Despite tons of evidence, the Jesus never existed theory still lives online. Why? It's not lack of proof, it's something deeper. Humans aren't purely logical, we're emotional, and our emotions shape what we're willing to see. You can show someone mountains of evidence, but if there's emotional resistance, maybe they got hurt by the church, maybe they don't want to be wrong, maybe they really want Christianity not to be true, they won't see it. The same works backwards, by the way. People believe things they want to be true even without evidence. But evidence should matter. Truth should matter, whether it proves or challenges what we already believe. So here's my question for you. If Jesus was real, and the evidence strongly says he was, what does that mean? Because accepting he existed forces you to deal with his claims, his teachings, his impact on billions of lives across 2,000 years. You can't just brush him off as fake. He was here. He said things. He did things. Things so big that people died rather than deny them. And maybe that's why the conspiracy theories stick around. Because if Jesus was just a myth, we can safely ignore him. But if he was real, then we might actually have to wrestle with who he claimed to be.